we don't have somebody that's going to pull us in and do that reprogramming for us. We got to do it. We aren't responsible for the programming that happened to us as a kid, but we are responsible for the reprogramming as an adult. And so that's why I use the word reparenting, because we are going to parent ourselves the way we would have been by our parents if they had known this. We didn't get parented vibrationally. We didn't get that vibrational parenting. So now we got to almost treat ourselves like the little person of us and the adult person of us. And it's like, okay, we're going to say things to ourselves now. We beat ourselves up, or we don't feel good about ourselves, or we feel like unfair or any of that stuff. Say, no, that's not the way it is. That's what they told me when I was a kid, and they didn't know that's the best they could come up with. But that's not the way it is. It's this way.
Brian, lovely to see you. Welcome back to the program. And I every time I talk to you, I leave with a really light, happy feeling in my heart. So I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to speak with you. And I know this conversations, as the previous two, are going to help a lot of people. And I was, before we start, I was so pleased to hear that someone who listened to the show got in touch with you and has done some work with you. So it's really landing with people. So that's makes me happy. It's nice to put things out there and know that it's resonating.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always so wonderful to, have a message that is connecting with people in a real way that helps us in real life, and that's really what it's all about.
Yeah. So let's dive in. So today we're going to be discussing some real world examples of people who've completely changed their life through choosing better thoughts, or choosing the thoughts that they want to think and not be so addicted to the thoughts which have led them to places that they don't want to be. Often these, as we've discussed previously, are not even our thoughts. Probably the majority of them are inherited negative pattern loops through our culture, parents, friends, all those things, through tens of thousands of years of ancestors who've been in a survival mindset. Uh, so we'll be going over some of that, but I would like to start with, I see a lot of people when they hear of even the word manifestation can have a reaction to people, because I guess it's been equated to just sit down, think of the thing you want, and ta-da, it'll appear in your life, which negates action and taking action and actually taking joyous action toward the things that you want, which is all a part of this human experience, is taking the action and enjoying that action and seeing the results. But the correct action comes firstly from being clear in your mind of what you're here to do and what you want, which to my understanding is manifestation, because you're choosing the thoughts or the way of being in the world that you would like to see come into fruition. So how do you think of this whole process and the place of action? Because I just want to remove it completely away from what a lot of people, I guess, in some ways will consider manifestation as somewhat of a meme. Like it's all la-di-da, and life is not that way. So what is your take on where action fits into this? And I guess that idea that manifestation is just a process where you think of what you want and it appears.
Okay, great topic and question there, Paul. And so, first of all, I want to sort of express that what I teach is alignment. I don't teach manifestation. I always
Mm,
talk about manifestations as the byproduct of the energy that's flowing from you, right? And so, everything about your life is a manifestation of your energy. So,
mm,
let's focus on what the energy is doing, and then the byproduct from that, as we clean that energy up, will naturally be the things that you want. And then you're not sitting and doing techniques or trying to do techniques or whatever it is, and then expecting it to come like that. Whereas we see in the creative process cycle of joyous expansion, those things naturally come because the asking comes from the contrast in life. Our inner being sets that all up. And then as we're flowing in that joy energy through our day, then that's the receiving factor that will just connect us with the path for the receiving of those things. So it really gets down to part three of the creative process. Everything else is pretty much automatic for us. The asking is automatic because just by living your life, you're going to You're going to have contrast. You're going to see things that you want them to be different. That's contrast, right? Things aren't the way that you want them to be. Your inner being instantly is with you on that and instantly creates the expanded version that you want. So now we're in part 3 of the creative process. This is sort of the switching point where you are choosing low or high vibration dominantly through your day, and that's a function of both your conscious and subconscious mind. So whatever's coming out of there, the law of attraction is picking that up, and then it's connecting you with either what I call the rodeo ride path or the yellow brick road path, which is the joyous expansion path. So that's where action comes in that 5th part, the receiving, because we're receivers. We don't take action to make things happen. Now we grow up with that and we think that's the way it is, but that's not the way it really is. Action is for receiving. Now there's 2 kinds of action, okay? There's inspired action, which is where you just have a thought or an opportunity to do something, and it's so appealing that you just fall into it because it makes so much sense. It feels so good. Everything lines up, and that's inspired action. So that's very easy action to take. But we can take any actions that feel good because, quite frankly, if you get up, let's be practical about this. If you get up in the morning and you have a job and you don't like much about it, right? That's not inspired action to get out of bed and go to that job, but you're going to make it joy action. You're going to find the positive aspects because what you know when you know how this works is that you know that your inner being knows you're unsatisfied with the job that you have. Physically speaking, you're unsatisfied with the components of it, and so your inner being sets up the job experience that you want. And so now you're going to choose a joy factor about it. So what are your favorite things about the job? What are the positive aspects? What do you appreciate? Things like this put you in a joy energy. Now, I talk about a joy list. That's one of the tools we can use to train our mind in that. And the joy list has the easy joy things for us that when we think about them, do them, just easy. It's just right there. And then there's the side of the list where there's things in our life that we're into and doing, and they're not quite the way we want. So we find the joy factor in it so that we're flowing in emotional satisfaction. That's where we want to be, emotional satisfaction. So we can take action from a joy perspective, and that's inviting the path to what we want, which will then invite also inspired action. Okay. So it's just like we can choose a thought. We can choose one that doesn't feel so good, or we can feel one that feels good. In any situation, we always have that option. If we're going to do something, and it's something like, let's say we're going to drive into get some food in the market, and then the traffic is long and slow, and that we make the choice, okay, we're going to go there because getting the food is something that we want to have, obviously. And so we go into the traffic, and it's that way. So we made a choice to go there. That wasn't necessarily an inspired action. That's just something that we know we wanted to do to have food in our house. So here we are in the traffic, and what do we're taking that action, and then we see the way the traffic is, and how are we feeling about it, right? We've taken an action, and now how are we feeling about it? So action is in there. How does it fit in? Well, I'm glad I took this action because I'm going to have these groceries, and I'm going to be home, and I'm going to have what I want, right? And so isn't it great that I have a car, and there's roads for me to drive on, and there's shops for me to go to? So you see, we're painting everything, our thoughts and our actions, with a positive brush, right? We got the choice. And why wouldn't we make that choice? Because in the making of that choice, it's like spending vibrational currency. Joy is vibrational currency, which buys everything. So we are there. So now we're saying, I'm going to make the best of it, right? I'm going to make the best of this traffic situation. I'm going to make the best of this work situation. I'm going to make the best of this situation. That's one of those things that we do to flow the joy. I'm going to take that action because I'm here, and to not take the action would really create a lot of resistance for me. Not my first choice of action, but I'm going to make the best of it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it with a positive attitude. This is a very important thing to understand about action, because a lot of right now in the awakening of humanity, we're taking a lot of that kind of action, right? And the inspired action will start to come more and more as we're more in alignment. But for now, this is really in part 5 of the creative process, the receiving. We can invite the path to the things that we want, that life calls us to ask for, by choosing the joy factor in the actions that we're taking.
Mm.
Plus, there is that inspired action as well.
Mm.
So, how does that help you? Can I give you more?
Oh,
Yeah.
no, no, no. I think that I'm just, what came to me when you were talking about that is we're not taught as children that we have the option to choose our thoughts. So we just, and we over identify, like we're told, or we're sort of enculturated by most people are. Obviously there's parts of the world who aren't like this, but that we are our thoughts. So we associate with the thoughts. We don't know where even these thoughts come from. You know, like you can just, we're swimming in a super conscious sort of collective mind as well. So there's all these thoughts that come to us from, that may not even be ours, even though I definitely think we have thoughts from our ancestors and it's in our flesh, like the body stores emotions literally in the organs. So there's all these things going on and we associate with all these things. So, and we also have a identity structure around that. So I'm thinking of, if I'm going to the market and I made the decision that it's really busy, my thing will be, who are all these people? How dare they? I've allowed enough time to go to the market, get my things, get back. I have things to do. And we see this play out like in traffic. Like that's the thought process for you to be in road rage, because what you're doing is more important than whatever everyone else is doing. And somehow they're blocking your ability to do the thing that you want, which is a complete victim state of being. And I'm sure none of us have ever done that. No one has ever gotten angry at the road at anybody. We never. So, but the problem that, as I see it, is that you just identify with that, and that's just the way the world is. You just think, well, I'm justified because I'm important. When really, even that thought of that level of you thinking of being important is not actually self-love. Because if you loved yourself, you wouldn't put yourself in a state of stress over something as trivial as being maybe stuck an extra 10 minutes in traffic before you go and buy food to nourish yourself. So when you said that, I guess it's the case of people realizing, or for myself, and everyone's brain is slightly different, but just even having the space to be aware that you have a choice to choose differently in that circumstance, which changes your mood toward everything. And we can do that with our awareness throughout the day. And then all of a sudden we've changed those pathways over, I mean, not all of a sudden, but over a period of time, we're a different person because we're a lot happier, because we're choosing to be happier. I mean, it's a choice of free. We hear it all the time. Like, we've been given free will precisely so we know what to play in this space. I mean, I guess the question then, which I'm very interested to hear, like, with all the people you've worked with, is there a sort of a time frame that you've seen that it takes for people to literally change their chemistry, to change those old patterns into new patterns of being?
Before I answer that, Paul, I just want to go
Oh no,
back over a few
please.
things
Yeah,
you
no,
said
do.
there
I said a lot.
about.
Sorry.
I'll jump in there, but thought option is a very, very important thing to understand, because it's that sort of stimulus response or reaction from, in most cases, and people don't understand, haven't understood, because the way we grew up as children, and there's just that knee jerk reaction. This means that. This means that. So I see this, I do that, and it's completely programmed in there, and we don't even give ourselves the grace to pause and say, wait a minute, I don't have to think that thought. I don't have to feel that way. And why would I want to? That's a negative feeling thought. That's a low vibration. This is a conversation with the law of attraction. So even if I'm in traffic and it is the way it is, I'm still having a conversation with the law of attraction, and it doesn't know I'm in traffic. But what it does know is if I'm high or low vibration. And if I'm high, then it's going to connect me with the path of details to receive what I want. So in traffic, it's much more than being in traffic. It's an opportunity to connect with the details for your life to improve in the ways that you want to. Who would have thought that? But it's right there, hiding in plain view, right? And it all has to do with the thought option, to realize you have thought options. And it's like, when you get up in the morning, you want to say to yourself, there is nothing in this day that's going to happen that's going to make me go into a negative conversation with the law of attraction, because I am doing myself in this world a huge disservice, right? I am going to always no matter where I am and what I'm doing and who I'm with, I am going to choose the thought that holds me in my natural high vibration. So I have that communication with the law of attraction. And that stream of energy is going to serve me. And things are going to happen really well for me through the day and carrying on, versus like you painted the picture and somebody goes into the road rage or whatever. Now you're just blocking. Not only you're blocking, you're inviting what you don't want. It's one thing to close the door to what you do want. It's another thing to close the door and open the door to what you don't want. And it's kind of like I say to people, visualize this. You've got two open doorways side by side, and there's one door in the middle, and it flaps back and forth. So when one's closed, the other one's open. So you do two things at one time. When you choose the positive, you close down the negative and you allow the flow. But if you do it the other way, you're doing two things at once. To choose high vibration means you're shutting down low vibration and vice versa. So no matter where you are in a relationship, in traffic, in a job situation, anything, it just serves you so well to learn how to choose the positive perspective, to stop yourself, feel that negative emotion. That's your alarm system. That's your friend. And you want to say, well, wait now, I'm out of alignment. My inner being has just told me I'm out of alignment with my perspective here, right? And then you go through that talk with yourself, as I talk about in the deconstruction. So that's the value of thought options, of knowing you have thought options. That's a very, very important term in all of this. Now, something else you mentioned was, where do thoughts come from? And I'd really like to put a sort of a clear thing on this. Now, I talk about generational faulty beliefs, and the beliefs that we grow up with would have came back from generations, going back and back and back and back. Now, this is the only thing that we inherit. We don't inherit anything to do with health. There's nothing in our genes or anything like that. The thing we inherit are faulty beliefs. And then from faulty beliefs, they interfere with our consciousness. And then our consciousness in low vibration then creates the health situation. And because of our unknowing of this, then it's like, oh, this runs in my family. No, that the health thing doesn't run in your family, but the faulty beliefs sure do. And that's what's behind your health situation, right? So that just wipes that all out of the whole picture when you understand that. And that gives a lot of people a lot of relief. So and I had that conversation with somebody today. Well, where do our thoughts come from? Well, most of our thoughts are received, but they're received from our subconscious mind. See, it's broadcasting all the time. Once it gets recorded, what is a belief? It's a thought that was accepted as true and thought so many times repetitively, it's on auto repeat. And not only is it broadcasting as an auto energy to the law of attraction, which forms the dominant energy of what's manifesting in your life, it also influences your conscious mind to keep thinking the same way. It's a powerful thing. Now, if we got it positive, you can see the power in that. But if it's on the negative side, you can see how it can run you down pretty quick, right? So the thoughts are coming from really the faulty belief voice in your head that's telling you it's going to be hard, or it's unfair, or it's taking too long, or you can't have that, or it costs too much, or any of that stuff. That's generally, I say, your parents, right? But whoever were the people that were the main influencing people that influenced you growing up, it's their voice, it's their faulty beliefs. And where did they come? It came from their parents. So in a sense, what you said, like 5 generations ago, 10 generations ago, that faulty belief voice came from a long way back. It's been influencing generation after generation. And it's time to stop. It's time to stop these generational faulty beliefs. We come in here fresh conscious mind, fresh subconscious mind, and boom, it gets contaminated with all that stuff. And now it's out of alignment with our true knowing of life, our true self. Now we've got a misaligned consciousness right from the get-go, and now our life is playing out, and we're wondering what's going on. So I just wanted to give a little airtime to where thoughts come from. They come from your generational faulty beliefs, and but you get to stop that, and you say, well, wait, I don't have to think that thought anymore, right? And I can choose this. So now we're going to reset to what the truth of life is, and the truth of ourself. And I just wanted to go back to the traffic thing for a minute too, to leverage my own example of the traffic. If you are in traffic and it is in a way that's unpleasant to you, well, number one, it's a mirror to your energy. So why did you end up in traffic in that way at that time, right? How did that timing all work out? There's no accidents in this universe. It's all an energy dance, right? And so then you got an opportunity as well. What do I like? Well, I like it when I go to the shop that traffic flows and I hit the, I hit the lights at the right time and people are courteous. And this is the story, right? That's the story you want to tell. You got to tell the stories you want to live. And then you can change that energy. And that can be, your story in a year's time could be, geez, everywhere I go, no matter what time of day or night I go to town, it's like the roads open up for me. I just go through and flow through, and it's really fun. And that's a possibilities. This is a field of all possibilities. And we could have any possible traffic experience that we want. In fact, I had that with a person I worked with, and they were offside with the whole traffic thing. And I said, let's look at the drivers as a mirror. So we're not blaming them for anything. And we're saying, well, okay, you're just a vibrational match. And I've sort of invited myself to this traffic party. So I'll take responsibility for that vibrational responsibility. And now I'm going to talk about, I really like a car. I really like the fact that I have a car and I have roads to drive on. And I know there's courteous drivers out there, and I know people are friendly drivers and paint that picture. And it was 3 weeks later, and their experience changed. They had a much more pleasant driving experience through traffic. And now to your question is, how long does it take? Well, it depends. It depends because we don't know what those generational faulty beliefs are. We don't know the depth of them. We don't know how much momentum they carry, right? And so each generation then it could change them a little bit. And so it's really unique for each one of us, whatever 8 billion of us or whatever. You can't put a canned solution on this. You can't say, if you do this, this, and this, your faulty belief will deactivate in 3 weeks. You can't make that statement because the variables are too great. There's too much going on in the energy that just says, how long did you practice it? How much did you buy into it? Right? And how many experiences did you have from it that caused you to even believe it even more? Right? And so there's all that going on. And so, we just say, look, life is manifesting like this. I don't like it. I don't like it in this way, which means I do like it to be this way. My inner being knows that too. Got it all set up. Why don't every time that situation comes, I'm ready to respond to it and not react on it. Let me respond to it. And when I know what I'm doing there is I'm repatterning my conscious mind around that. And in the repatterning of my conscious mind, which can happen in the moment very quickly, but our subconscious mind doesn't change that quickly. It will change a little bit. We'll do a little deactivation, a little momentum shifting to the new story, to what we want versus the way it's been. And then we just do that every time it comes up. And it takes as long as it takes, is what I like to say. And you just got to know that every time you're making a new response, you're adding momentum to the new manifestation that you want, and you're taking momentum away from the manifestation that you previously fed. And at some point, the dominant energy is going to change, and that's the day when your life starts to change. And then the way you can track that, that's why I have these tools like the daily emotion tracker, the trigger tracker, the joy list, and these things, because we can see the 7 stages of manifestation change that I talk about, that video that I did. We can see that in stage 3, after we have an understanding how this works, and we can learn how to, a negative feeling thought comes in, and we can learn how to turn that around into a positive perspective. Now we're sort of in stage 3. And as we do that continually, we start to move in stage 4, which really is alignment, because now we're feeling more at ease, more calm, more optimistic, interpreting things from a vibrational perspective, knowing its expansion. And then as we get there, we vacillate between stage 3 and 4 for a little while as we do that repetition. And sometimes, some days it gets us, the faulty belief gets the best of us, and we say, it's okay, you got me today, but I'm going to get ready for you tomorrow. And you are, and then you win that tomorrow, and then you start winning more, right? And then stage 5, 6, and 7 is when it starts to turn physical, right? And it's not linear across the board in different aspects of your life. It may start to move quicker in relationships, or it might start to move quicker in vocation, right? Or health. It might start to work in one area quicker than the other. But really, you simplify it all is, there's a situation I don't like, and here's the way I've always thought about it. I reacted to it. I reacted to these people. And now I'm going to introduce a new response that shows me that, hey, they're just a vibrational mirror. Nothing's gone wrong here. That's energy I've offered, a belief I have. Let me tell the new story and deactivate that belief and just talk to that belief, talk it away as the nonsense, invalidate it as it is. And I reduce that momentum some. And then my energy is starting to be more positive and more in alignment. And then stage 5 is the flow. We start to see our life flow like, hey, my life's going easier. I don't know, just the people that are in my day, the synchronicities, the timing, it just seems to go. And then stage 6 is trending. Hey, that looks close to what I want. It's not exactly, somebody else got it, but isn't that good? I'm seeing it. That means I'm getting closer to it. And this is a tricky part for a lot of people. Hey, why do they got it? How come I don't have it? Now they're back to stage 3. They got to deconstruct that. So you want to feel the joy when other people have things that you want, because you say, hey, isn't that great? They've achieved the vibration that let them receive it. And I'm seeing it, which means I'm really close on the trail, versus shooting yourself in the foot and saying, envy or jealousy sends you back to stage 3. If you feel anticipation, then you're getting closer to stage 7. So the timing of things is just, and that's what trips a lot of people up, because in this physical matrix world where we want, yes, do this, this, and this, and the timing is this, and this will happen. And it's like going to the store. You give whatever amount of money and you get that. And it's all this give and instant reciprocation. But it's not like that, like energy, because there's a momentum factor. You've got to understand the momentum factor. And it's different for every one of us based on the momentum of our beliefs and the level and the levels of beliefs that we may have, right? So that's the thing. But I will say, if you are getting to a place, if you've achieved and pretty consistently, about, let's say 90% of your day is you're flowing in positive emotion energy, genuinely positive emotion. So no matter what's coming up, you're in a state of happy or joy or ease or peace or any of those high vibration emotions, and you're running at about 90% and you're there for 90 days, maybe not even 90 days, you're going to see changes. You're going to see some either flow or trending or fall. It just depends where your momentum starting point is. It's different for everybody. And so you don't want to ever be disappointed. Well, hey, they were only doing it. They were only, choosing good feeling thoughts and changing their alignment for, 2 weeks. And look what happened to them. And I've been doing it for 6 months and I still don't see that. Well, don't get discouraged, because it just means your momentum was different. And you just have to practice more. You just have to keep training your mind. Kind of like, if we can liken it to the gym, somebody who's in pretty good shape and they go to the gym and they have the program, they get up to speed pretty quick and their strength and everything comes around. But if we take another person who hasn't really looked after it at all and they go to the gym, that same amount of time is not going to produce that result at all. They're going to have to, do that program much longer to get that up to that physical level. That's pretty easy to understand, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think also when I'm think of my own experience with this and observing other people, not in a judgmental way, but just seeing the way they are in the world and what comes to them as a result, and them saying they want different, but they keep behaving the same way. There's this sort of addictive trait to a lot of the ways we think, because they fortify the identity that we think we are, based off a lot of separation. Like, you need to feel above or better than other people. I'm speaking for myself here. Like, if I'm not feeling good about myself, I actually then need to judge other people to make myself superficially feel better, which is this negative loop, because that's you're obviously putting out, when you're judging people, you're putting out negative energy. You're going to get that back. So you think in the moment, oh, this is making me feel better. But overall, you're making yourself miserable because you're in complete separation. And one of the things for me was actually, well, I need to, like, when I actually love myself, I don't want to be that way in the world. So that's been a real key for me, is to, like, I've been addicted to these ways of being because they soothe me in this very minor instant, but overall it's creating a life that's making me overall unhappy. So it's having the perspective to realize that was somewhat of an addiction to this ego structure that had been built from childhood. Through many different, for feeling unworthy, or many things that a lot of people have based off. That's what how the humanity's been behaving for a couple thousand years. So it's not, it's not even your fault either. Like that's just a lot of us have. And as you said, we're also different, and we can't. How could you ever judge anyone given the people's genealogy, their life experiences? We're all vastly different in that, but we all have the choice when we become aware of it to create a different life for ourselves, which is empowering. I just want to, I'll come to a question, but I want to go back to the traffic too, because it's very funny. I'm someone who historically has driven very quick. Like I like driving fast. So everyone's in my way because I'm the person going over the speed limit. So, unless I get in the autobahn in Germany where I can just floor it, even then I'm sure I'd find someone who wasn't going fast enough. But it's really interesting because if I then look at the micro is the macro. If I then look at how my life has been in a lot of instances, I've rushed through things. I've always been trying to get to a goal, or I've rushed through work that I thought wasn't that important because I wanted to do the other work. And as you know, when you rush, or when you're when you're in a rush, you make more mistakes because you're not actually paying the attention that you should be. So not reading emails properly, not getting on the Zoom call when you should with somebody because you're rushing through things. And then I take that and I get in the road and it's the same. So I have recently been doing a whole bunch of activities which are very slow. Like even the way I exercise has been very aggressive. And only recently I've started doing a lot more like slow restorative work. And taking my time when I'm in traffic. Like I don't need to be here. If I'm a few minutes late, so be it. That's fine. And as a result, ironically, it's a lot calmer out there. I'm not experiencing these frisons between people who I'm assuming are in my way, who are actually not in my way at all. I'm in my way. So yeah, it's just fascinating how we get these reflections. The life is always showing us who we are, and we're either choosing to push that away or choosing to take that as the lesson that it can be to create more of what we want that's within us. Before we get on, so I'd love you to talk just about for people some of the real life examples you've seen of people who've turned things around. But sorry, go on. You're going to say something?
No, just before we go there, so rushing in the traffic, just to cover that is lack, isn't it? Like what? There's
It's
no
lack.
rush.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no rush in life. I mean, the joyous expansion shows us that why would you rush? In fact, quite the opposite. Like when you get really in tune and alignment, and you see how things deliver to you through the universal process of the creative process, and you get familiar with that, and you trust that, and you have the certainty of that and the confidence of that, you get to a point where it's like this path is so good. I want to savor this path. Just I don't even want to receive that thing yet, Whereas in humanity right now, there's a sense, I think it's fair to say there's a sense of desperation in humanity because we've been living in lack and people have been living without the things that they want. And there's a hunger to have what you want. And because we've lived without it for generations, and even in this generation, these generations on planet Earth now, there's that uncertainty and that lack that has been experienced, and so there's a hunger in there, and so that's what creates the rush. I got to get my share before somebody else might get it, and then I won't get my share. That kind of mentality, right? But when you calm down and hey, there's so much good on the path. The path is so much fun. There's so much to savor there that you don't want to miss anything. You want to look at your day like a beautiful food buffet, right? You don't go in the door and rush to the dessert counter. It's like, I'll get there. But in the meantime, I am going to really thoroughly enjoy all these bits along the way, right? So just wanted to,
Oh God, no, that's beautiful. And it's a beautiful framing of it. Oh, it's true as well. And then the irony being when you're operating in that place of lack and rush, you're going to create circumstances where you have lack. It's like, whereas if you just relax and you have a sense of knowing, or you just enjoying being alive, things will come.
Well, the funny thing about that, the very interesting thing about that, Paul, is you rush through traffic and you're in that lack state. What you're really saying is, I don't have what I want. And so the mirror reflects to you. So the drivers show up to say, Paul, I got a message from you that told me to help you slow down, right? right? You don't have enough. So let me slow you down from having any because you're really thinking you don't have enough. So let me slow you down. It's a fascinating thing, this vibrational mirror of on life, if you will look beyond the circumstance for what it is and see the vibrational value of it. No, like you said, nobody's slowing you down. You're slowing you down. And you set out the invitation that I don't have enough and I'm grabbing at more. I want to get it, and so the lack vibration is dominant, and they're saying, well, no, we're going to slow you down because what you really believe is you don't have enough yet, so we'll make sure that's true for you.
Funny, yeah. Well, it's funny
So
too. Well, I was just going to say too, like when every time I've had this idea of what I want, and you think I'll get there, and then I'll be happy. Then all these things will work out, and I've had the experience of where I've been, I've historically been quite a hard worker and very disciplined. But from a like I push myself, and I'm trying to learn to let go of that as well. So I have achieved things that I thought I wanted. Then you get there and you're like, oh, still exactly the bloody same. In fact,
yeah.
now I've got all this other stuff I need to look after, and I've got all this additional responsibility. If anything, I feel more trapped. It's so funny. It's just like it's the problem is not that there's not getting the things you want. The problem is me, who I'm being in the moment, and not coming from that place of abundance and gratitude and love, which is the only states that I've found where I'm actually joyous. Like that. That's what makes me is just connecting with people, talking to you, helping other people, taking care of myself. That they're the things which are nourishing, not the like. Yes, things are nice out there. We live in a material universe, and there's things that we like and don't like. Fine, but that's like the cherry on top of the state that comes underneath it. And then you don't even need the cherry because you've already got the cake. So
Yeah,
like you've already had
it
it.
is. You already had it. You already have it.
Yeah.
You always had it. That's just it. You always had it. And that's why I say these things are hiding in plain view in your day. That was my last video. And I talked about
Mm.
the word search puzzle and how you can have anticipation. And it's all there. Those words are all there. And if you focus, you'll see them. And it's in a vibrational sense for your life in your day. If you choose the high vibration energy, you'll start to connect with details of the path. Now, one other thing that you mentioned and about how people behave when they don't feel that self-love and they make up for it, they try to compensate for it by maybe talking other people down to raise themselves up and that kind of behavior, right? And that's why I have two sections in each of my two main books about getting back in self-alignment. And it's really, I call it the cornerstone because that is really the vibration that gives rise to everything else. Because when you have that feeling of you're enough and you're valuable and you're worthy and you're deserving and you're in demand right out of the box, you don't have to be different than you are. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to please others. You don't have to get others to please you. When you're in that detached state of all of that stuff and you just feel your inherent worthiness, now you're and you said it, you're what you go to is seeing the good in people, and even if people are behaving and saying things in a way, you look past that and you see, no, I see good in them. You see the good in everybody, versus even if something was to be said to you, you would be a more vibrational understanding. Oh, that person is under the influence of a faulty belief and they're hurting, and this is the best way that they have to cope with that, to react and say something that's going to give them some sense of satisfaction where they can't find it in themselves. And so you feel that, and then you can offer them, oh, I understand. I'd feel like that if I was in that situation. Then you try to help them to see it that way, but you don't add fuel to the fire. Whereas if you are feeling that, then all of a sudden you come back with a reaction, and they up you, and then you up them,
Yeah.
and then what do we got? A war, right? Then we got a war. Where do wars come from? Right? There's where wars come from. Out of alignment people that are trying to assert themselves and their power in that kind of out of alignment way and force it when there's enough in this world for everybody, because this is an abundant universe. And uh, yeah, so come from self-love. That's, we want to get our self-love in order and our feeling of enough. And then when we're there, then abundance feels natural to us. And then we're not in lack. We now associated with our self-alignment would come the natural flow of abundance, where we know joy is the currency of life. and that
Mm.
we can easily find the joy of everything in our day when we're feeling good about ourselves. And now see how all the pieces fit together. It's a beautiful fitting together. And then when we start to reconnect with our gifts and talents, and we start to serve both humanity and ourselves from that, that's the easiest joy of all. And now you can see, how it all fits together and how it all cycles in a very high vibration energy way beautifully. And so it all starts with ourself. If we get ourselves in alignment, we know our own true value and why we came here and what our purpose is in serving humanity and ourselves in these ways, then you're always got a positive response to every situation, and nothing bothers you, nothing pulls you out of that. You just see it for what it is, and you value it, and you appreciate it, and you grow from it, and you focus in a way that allows you to receive it. And that's the beautiful way of life that we came for.
Mm.
So if you're ready, we can go into some of these stories about what
Yeah, yeah,
happens.
absolutely. I was just going to say too. I think the other thing is, it's so important to work through yourself, because all the things that we've just spoken to, like I've experienced, and I've been in those states, those negative states. I've lived life, and I understand what that is. I've reacted to people. I've done things like that. So when you understand it, you see it in yourself, and someone else does it. It's so much easier to have empathy, because you're like, I've been there, and you know yourself that it's an unpleasant place to be. So then you don't react with anger, you react with kindness. So you're hurting. Like, people
That's right.
lash out because they're hurting. They don't do it because they're happy. You don't lash out at someone and judge them because you're in a joyous, happy, loving state. You do it because you yourself, as you said, you're hurting and you don't feel worthy. You feel lack. So what other way to respond to that is than, or to diffuse it, and to actually is with love. Like, love is the only thing that solves all these issues. Like, it's the only way. There's no other way. Anything else is
No,
going to feed it.
that's right. And there's an expression I think I seen one time: if they throw you darts, you throw them roses. Right?
I love that. Yeah.
And
Roses,
it is.
roses might hurt still though, Brian. If they've got the thorns on them, they might actually be quite effective.
We'll snip off the top
Snip,
part, so
snip
just
this. Yeah, okay, just the
so
actual
the
rose.
petals go out there.
Yeah, it's the opera.
But
Yeah.
yes, but you mentioned the word empathy, and I want to say about that, because compassion is really the high vibration. Because what you talked about is compassion.
Mm,
Empathy is like this. I say it in this simple way. If somebody's down in the hole, they're not feeling good, they're feeling negative, they're feeling unworthy, feeling hopeless, powerless, all those kinds of things, even bored, any of those emotions. Uh, Empathy would be going down in the hole. Let me jump down in the hole with you,
with
and we
you.
will
Yeah.
commiserate together. Compassion is, listen, I understand why you're there. I can understand that. But listen, there's light up here. Let me throw the ladder down. Why don't you climb up into the light and come up here where it's all good and it's all going to be good for you? That's compassion. That's that love of helping another human being and not reacting to them, but responding to them and helping them to see something good in themselves or about life or how it could be better. Anything you offer them, any kind of line, and it really is up to them if they grab it or not. And but that's what you do, and you do it
Mm,
unconditionally. You don't do it with the thought that, well, you don't get offside, because that would be low vibration. Oh, I offered them, so why didn't they take it? And you just say, no, I offered it, and when they're ready, they'll take it. And if they ever come back, and I'll be here, and I'll offer what I,
mm,
I have to, that may shed something that they can see it differently, a new perspective that might open the door and get them moving. And that's the way you go at that.
mm. Yeah. Oh, beautiful, Brian. Yeah. I'm sorry. I do. Yeah. Meeting them at the resonance of empathy, where you're pulling yourself down so they feel seen, is, yeah. It's not a. It's also. It's a very good distinction between that and compassion, and you holding your state for them.
Yes. And yet
Yeah.
another way I say is, imagine yourself as a lighthouse on the shore, and the ships are in the ocean's churning up.
Mm,
And see, it would do no good to turn your light out. That wouldn't help those people at all, right? We got to stand strong and stay in our lighted situation. We don't want to go down into those low vibrations as a way to say, okay, I feel that too. I can feel your hurt. I can feel the anger. Oh, well, that's turning your light out. Now we're banging around in the dark. We're all low vibration. I know I'm going to stay up here in the light, and I'm going to see the light in you, and I'm going to influence you that way. and bring the ships into shore. That's what you want to do. You want to bring the ships into shore.
Mm. Look, yeah, as a we're still in a culture of the rocks, but look, you're definitely seeing. I'm noticing too. You're seeing a lot of people at least wanting different. Like we've seen what doesn't work for so long now, and things are accelerating exponentially. Yeah, I somewhat feel it's inevitable. I've said this before because it's our true nature is that place of love and compassion. So
It
eventually
is.
that will come to the surface. And it's not like there's a time limit on it. As you said, like there's abundance of everything. Maybe we have eternity to discover this stuff. Like if you're putting a time limit on it, you're already restricting the possibility of it coming about.
Absolutely. I like the way you said there. It will surface. It is surfacing. We are in awakening, a state of awakening of humanity like we've never been before. And love to a person is like sap to a tree. But the sap is flowing in the tree.
Mm,
There's nothing to cover up anything in nature. But it will rise to the top as we peel back these faulty beliefs and we see our value and we see why we came here and we see the network of humanity that we came here to work together to all grow together in joyous expansion. As more of humanity sees that, then and that comes from that base of self-love that I wasn't born to prove myself. I'm already worthy. But so much of life turns into proving ourselves and those kinds of things. So yeah, it's beginning to surface. Love within each of us is beginning to surface, and that's what comes up as the faulty beliefs are
mm,
shed.
peel
So
back.
if you
Well,
peel back.
let please do. Let's dive into some just a couple of the ones that you think are most appropriate for people to hear of how uh, this work changes lives, basically.
I got a whole string here, and I'm going to see if I can dance through them, just touch on them, and maybe a couple a little bit more than others. But
Yeah.
let me just go through here. So, all righty. So, for example, I worked with somebody. They wanted this was sort of a professional level job market kind of thing. And I worked with somebody, they wanted to move to a better job, a different job, more, again, it was, they just felt the contrast, but yet they didn't have the confidence to go through the process and leave where they were and go to a new experience. And then we worked through the program, worked through some of that stuff. And what they got is they built the confidence. You see, they were in stage sort of 3 without their confidence. The energy, the feeling of worthiness was low. And then we brought that up, and then they felt at ease to go to interviews in different places, even move from, different places in the world. And so out they went and they felt confident. See, that's a success story. The success was in the confidence that came and the feeling of ease. That's what we got to understand. That's what people really want to understand. We're not just going right to stage 7, to the house, to the job, to the relationship, to the car. There's stuff in between there that's got to happen. There's success stories in there that's got to happen. And the first success is a response in place of a reaction. You want to celebrate that. That's a huge success story. That's a vibrational success that's going to, if you continue to be successful in that way, it will start to manifest in your physical life, right? So that's a simple story. Now, one of the ones that I had starting up many years ago with a person, and they were diagnosed with cancer. So we're talking about health, the health business, right? And a lot of people know, right, that you can get to a point where nobody can help you. Your best friends can't help you. Your family can't help you. The doctors can't help you. Nobody can help you. And this is where your back's against the wall. So what are you going to do? You're going to open your mind and you're going to look for, well, what's out there? Is there something out there? There's got to be out there. And in that situation, you're asking, and your inner being is hearing that, and your inner being is going to connect you with the details. And so, of the path for you to get the answers and the solutions for you to return to your natural healthy state. Anyway, I connected with this person, and they were along in their diagnosis of a cancer situation. And in fact, the next day was supposed to be a surgery. So I said, well, it's going to take some time to turn this energy around. And a path of least resistance is probably going to be that surgery right now to reduce your worry and fear of what that diagnosis is. So they did that. And then we sat down and we said, what's going on in the energy? What's going on in your life? Where's the dissatisfaction? Where's the misalignment? Because your energy body is perfect health. And then you've got this consciousness, your conscious and subconscious mind. And then you've got your body, your physical body. And when that consciousness is out of alignment, now the energy body and the physical body, they can't talk and keep all the systems working. The physical body's kind of being stranded on its own and it can't do it. And it's breaking down. But that's a natural thing for it to break down and give you the signal that, hey, there's nothing wrong with me, but you got in the way and I can't get myself back in order. So why don't you get out of the way consciously? And then this is all going to repair and come back into alignment. So that's what we did. We looked at this person's consciousness, meaning what did they believe about things? What was going on in their life? What was their beliefs attracting to them? And they had 3, maybe 4 issues at the time that for any one person to experience any one of those things, we would call those very life-changing, we would call those big situations in life to deal with one of them. And this person had 3, and if I recall, maybe a 4th one. So we said, okay, let's deal with each one of these situations, right? And let's get peace with it. Let's make peace with it. Let's understand it vibrationally, that it's not a bad thing. It's not doing anything to you. It's not meaning that your life is over. You ruined your life or any of those things. It's just vibrational awareness. Let's understand it. So we went through the program week by week, and there was more building of the momentum, the understanding that, oh, you could just see the relief. That, okay, this isn't that bad thing that I thought it was going to be. And so they got back into order. Make the long story short is they did come to peace with all of those things and realize, okay, it did come out of my energy and I didn't like it, but that was contrast and expansion. So that means I had better on the way to me when I was thinking dead end, right? I didn't know what was going on, how I could recover from this. So then they felt the ease of that. Now they turned the fear into anticipation and joy and comfort and confidence. And that was in the area of 15 to 20 years ago. Excuse me. And that person has been thriving ever since. And in fact, only 2 or 3 weeks ago, they sent me a note, somebody they know, and they recommended me to them. And they said, go talk with Brian. And because they've got a cancer diagnosis, this person that they know. And so I've begun to have some communication with them. But this person, they're just thriving now, and because they lined up their consciousness, and medicine will say, well, that was a remission, and you might have a recurrence, and I'm saying that's nonsense. The only way you can have a recurrence is if you have a recurrence in your consciousness. If you stress yourself out and you get way out of alignment, then yes, your body will show it to you again, but your body's not going to go there just in some automatic way because you've had it before. That ailment is just an alarm system, right? So again, it was nice. They sent an email, and I often talk about Joyce expansion is the sandbox, and they said, "I'll see you in the sandbox," right? So, and so so that's a good one about getting in alignment, how it affects the health, and just another health story. I worked with somebody less than a year ago. They had debilitating back pain going into their legs. They ran their own business. It was getting to the point where the doctors couldn't do anything to help them, couldn't identify what the source was. They gave them painkillers. The painkillers worked somewhat, but they really started being ineffective too. The person couldn't sleep that well. So you know what it's like when you can't sleep, you can't function all that well. The business, everything was really going out of alignment. And so they obviously, in that contrast, the asking came, they connected with me, and we started to work through the program. Now for them, it was really quick. We got to about week 7 in the program, and even by week 6, they were starting to feel a decrease in their symptoms like they never had before. Nights they could sleep with no pain, and it was getting better and better. And then I think by week 8 or 9 or 10, and this person looked younger. They look younger. Most of my clients, if not all of them, over the course of going through the program or extended appointments, they start to look younger. Why wouldn't they? Excuse me. When you pull the resistance out of your energy and you feel light and easy versus a burden and stress and resistance and worry and fear, when you pull all that out of your energy, of course you're going to feel lighter. You're going to look younger and more vibrant. And this person was definitely no exception. Almost looked like a little child again. In some ways, their facial features. It was like, wow, what a change. And so that was a great story too. That we looked at their life resistance and the consciousness, and there was some around the business, right? And the first one was the fear about the ailment itself. So we got that one in perspective, that it's just a temporary condition. This is not anything that you're in charge of. This, your body is showing you that you have some resistance in your life. So don't be afraid of what your body's doing. It's telling you exactly what it's supposed to be doing. What we want to do is we want to honor that. If you can take some temporary measures in the outside world to get yourself some relief, that's fine. But we're going to get your consciousness in alignment so that your energy body and physical body can start talking again, and they'll sort out all those details, right? And it did. And that person was fine. And then their business then started to thrive from the work we did on that, and their material wealth started to open up as they experienced more of that. So another good example in the health area. Another quick one in the sales area. Person I was working with really turned it into more about the service of their customers versus the numbers, and they started breaking records, sales records. Right? Not every time. It was up and down, but the ups were breaking records. Right? And it's an ebb and flow with that anyway. All of life is an ebb and flow, but they were experiencing new levels because their outlook towards the sales had to be, how this business that I'm doing, how is it that I'm serving humanity? How can I help somebody's business and life be better because of what I'm doing? Imagine the joy in that, the joy that you're doing something. Now, this person had those qualities to be in that sales area and do what they were doing. And so that was joy for them. But imagine the joy you feel when somebody uses your gifts and talents, your products and services, and their life is better. And that person fed back to me some of the stories that they had about, I think somebody said to them, don't take this personally, but if I was close to you, I'd give you a big kiss. They get just so happy about how much the services helped out their business. And from what the salesperson I was working with, how they changed their attitude about how they're doing it. So again, we worked with the energy, making it more about being in service than trying to achieve the numbers. Do it for the joy factor, right? Do it. And I talk with different people about day trading. Change it about the numbers. Trade it in for what's the joy in the day trading, because ultimately, quite frankly, you could not earn a cent in day trading. But if you enjoyed it and you loved it for the time that you were doing it, you're investing currency, joy currency. Well, that's the currency of abundance. See, abundance is going to flow to you because the vibration of abundance is joy. And if you flow that for any reason, whether that channel opens up and flows abundance that you're working at directly, or it comes through other channels, who cares? Who cares? But that's one of those faulty beliefs. Earning, right? Effort to earn to receive, or effort to earn to buy, versus the natural paradigm, which is vibration to receive. So if we will flow joy around the things that we do, they're going to naturally yield abundance flow. Now, usually there's going to be an expectation in that, so there'll be some through there. But you're not by any means limited by that channel, right? It could be multiple channels. So that's another story. Let me read ones towards the end here that I had, because this was one on YouTube. I didn't work with this person, but it was a great story. And let's see, there's two of them here. And somebody had put on one of my YouTube videos something about it doesn't work, or something about that. And anyway, this person came out with a comment, and they said, well, except it does work. My life turned around dramatically and positively the moment I decided to delude myself so totally that my awful circumstances didn't matter. If I told you how I went from brink of eviction, no food, and little prospects to a person who just got $97K from an investor I didn't know the day before he came into my studio, you'll think I'm lying. But here is what I did. I imagined myself jumping up and down with a friend saying, we did it. And then it happened. Now, that fits in perfectly with the creative process, because delusion is something that people in the matrix think about us who know how energy work, that we know things come from joy, where they think you got to work for it and do all kinds of things. But it does, when you're starting to learn about the creative process, it does feel kind of delusional, because because there's no direct attachment between the way things manifest in your life come to you and your direct doing of things and your action. So you see, it's not a one for one thing in this joyous expansion cycle. It's just energy. When you flow the energy, then the path finds you in many different ways. So this person had the cleverness to use the principles of energy and just say, well, look, I'm gonna say to myself, right, I'm gonna imagine myself jumping up and down with a friend that we did it. So put yourself in the emotional essence of that story. Well, if you tell a story, if you have an intention with no resistance, then it must manifest. That is a law of the universe, right? So that the person moved their energy. They used it this way to move the energy. So they moved from a place of being at the brink and feeling lack and all of that, but instead of going into any kind of details of anything else, they just went to this story. And they were in a place. Now, not everybody can do this, because it depends again on your faulty beliefs, but some people can do it like this. And that is, you can just jump right to the story. You don't got to do a deconstruct or a reconstruct. You can wholesale shock the energy, go right into a story, and have so much conviction about it that it will literally manifest. And so that's why I see this stuff works different for everybody. It just depends on your beliefs. But that's the way it worked for this person. Here's another story, and this one was from YouTube as well. And said, Brian, I'm still receiving other things. In living the creative process, I've already received so much of what I wanted: better relationships with people around me, becoming a runner when before running was a massive challenge to my body. I also completely cleared the acne off my face, like my face was 60% covered after trying so many face washing routines and products. Seemingly out of nowhere, a problem with my car disappeared. Random things through my day now cause me joy. I've found joy in my business instead of fear and worry about each trade will work or not. And lastly, I just look forward to waking up every day. These are just some of the things that I know, as long as I stay flowing with joy in the things I like now and enjoy for what's coming, everything else I'm looking forward. I will be. Let's see. Everything else I'm looking forward to receiving will come. Okay. So there's a couple of stories off YouTube. People have been going, listening to the videos and understanding the creative process. And again, you can approach this different ways, but you got to change the energy. The bottom line is the beliefs have to change. Now, that person with the 97K and we did it. If your beliefs aren't pulling you down in a very momentous way, you could go there and there wouldn't be the resistance. But for other people could say that and they really wouldn't believe it. They wouldn't buy into it. So you see, the energy wouldn't work. The momentum
Yeah.
there. So in both cases, that in all these cases, I said it was a stage 3 person went to a stage 4, and then stage 5, 6, and 7 came along. But it started in stage 3 and 4.
Mm. I really want to touch upon well, firstly, you said being delusional. Like they've actually how they've studied this. Like people who are to a degree, obviously, there's different levels of delusion and what you're delusional about. But people who are delusional about their ability to achieve what they want have vastly better outcomes than those people who are just purely based in the material. This is the way things are, and until we get, because it's intangible, because we can't see our thoughts and we can reach out and touch the material world, the faulty belief is that material world is the starting place as opposed to the finishing place. And I think I think last time we spoke, I mentioned before we started, and this is going back to the health, but also the other forms of whether it's being delusional or getting what you want. If you think that we are literally consciousness and the fabric of reality is all consciousness as well, everything comes from consciousness. Of course, our consciousness then is continually interacting with the consciousness that is what is. So we have the power to change everything based off our awareness. But particularly with the health, like everything starts as in the unseen. So the filter, whatever filter you put before that, and the manifestation in the body is what the body will eventually become. Like if you hone that in long enough, if you keep telling yourself that you're whatever those negative beliefs are, your body has no option but to create that. And luckily, beautifully, the inverse of that is also true. So the more we can hold a vision for ourselves, which is different, and it goes through that filter before it turns into the reality of the body, which has always been regenerated. It's always doing its best to create a new reality for itself, or it's always in a state of flux. Yeah, and you see it with people too. I mean, you can take one look at somebody. I mean, we do it all the time, and you can see what kind of life they've had. Like you can see if someone's had a life full of suffering based off how their physicality is. You can see if they're. I've said this before. I love dancing, and I go to ecstatic dance things, and you see, and it's a great thing if you have any hesitation about people seeing you, because it's so exposing, because you can almost see the way people are in the world by the way they dance. And it's not a case of are you a good dancer or a bad dancer based off some arbitrary, based off metrics of what we assume of as a professional dancer. It's more, are you fluid? Can you move, or are you holding yourself so tightly that your movements are very like robotic? Because it's a clear sign that when you're everything is responding in the world, then you're incredibly holding yourself tightly. So how much can you let go and trust that what you're doing is in alignment with the music in that instance? I just, from this conversation, you've made me realize I just love how absolutely everything is showing us who we are in that moment. And the more we can shine awareness on that, the more we have the chance to change that if we're in any way unhappy with what we're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned a great word, a filter. I like that word because you can visualize this pretty easily. That and I talk about the flashlight, the light going through the glass kind of thing, but you could talk about a filter too. But the idea is that here's this pure positive energy in the form of the things that you want flowing through. It hits your consciousness, and then when there's faulty beliefs in there, it distorts it. So the host that you
Mm,
want turns into the host you don't have, or the host that is not the way that you want it to be. And it's because of the distortion in the filter we call our consciousness, which is mostly our beliefs and our subconscious mind, right? So we can see that we got to clear that up. If we can get that in alignment, and we have the power to do that, then our life, there's the filter is it just flows through. It's like the glass. It's a true glass. It's not a fragmented glass anymore. It's
mm,
true, and everything that goes in comes out, and it's the way we want it to be versus it's some kind of distorted version of it, right? So everything is consciousness for sure. Now I wanted to mention, if I'm correct in this, I believe Pygmalion was a play, and I think it was turned into a movie or something like that called My Fair Lady. I could be corrected on this, but the gist of the story is this: I believe some people had a bet, or they wanted to do an experiment, and they wanted to take somebody who was living on the street, a life of basically poverty, right? And they thought that if we bring them in and we surround them with a lavish life of what we would call wealth, and we treated them with respect, would they become that person? Would they transform? And I believe in the movie it showed that happened, and it absolutely is true. But what the reason I bring this up is we don't have somebody that's going to pull us in and do that reprogramming for us. We got to do it. See, we aren't responsible for the programming that happened to us as a kid, but we are responsible for the reprogramming as an adult. And so that's why I use the word reparenting, because we are going to parent ourselves the way we would have been by our parents if they had known this. We didn't get parented vibrationally. We didn't get that vibrational parenting. So now we got to almost treat ourselves like the little person of us and the adult person of us. And it's like, okay, we're going to say things to ourselves now when we beat ourselves up, or we don't feel good about ourselves, or we feel like unfair or any of that stuff. Say, no, that's not the way it is. That's what they told me when I was a kid, and they didn't know that's the best they could come up with. But that's not the way it is. It's this way. So in that movie or that play, My Fair Lady, whenever they just taught her all the etiquette of that lifestyle, and she came along, and anytime, she'd come to the dinner table or whatever, and her dress wasn't the way that they set it up, or the table wasn't set in a certain way, and they wouldn't criticize her or anything. They would just gently guide her and support her and encourage her. And then she was at ease, and being at ease, and then she learned all these ways, and then she became that was her, which was really, it is more or less a natural filter, because it is natural to live in wealth, and it's natural to live in self-worth, and it's natural to live with people around you that are supportive and encouraging, which you do when you are. If you want love, give it to yourself. If you want respect, give it to yourself. And when you give these things to yourself, then the world will give it to you. But the thing in the matrix is, people go out there looking for it, and you're in trouble when you go out there looking for it, because they're not going to give you what you want. They're going to give you what you're vibrating.
It's funny though, isn't it? When you think of the reparenting and us wanting others to solve the problems for us, and we've all, I'm sure we've all had states where we've been in that, we're sort of entrained almost to look to authorities to tell us who we are and to look after us. But coming into the realization that we are so powerful that we're the ones who can create the reality for ourselves. I mean, that's fundamentally liberating. Like, it's so much more liberating than expecting or wanting someone else to do it for you. So that's a really, it's a powerful message ultimately that humanity's stepping into, that each of us has the power to do this for ourselves. And we've lived in a paradigm for so long where we're told that just, we're not powerful, that you need other people are powerful. And we give, and the only reason they're powerful is because we are powerful and we've given them that power. So it's just this sort of ironic feedback loop of they're only in that position because we've abdicated our own strength.
100%. Yeah. It's a real paradox for sure,
Yeah.
and that's what, that's what I say, taking the side door out of that paradox is the moment you have negative emotion. I mean, if you're looking for answers, and you want life to be better, and you don't know, and you haven't known how to make it better, and you start learning this creative process knowledge of life, and you learn how it works, then your side door out is the negative emotion is your fire alarm. It tells you you're out of alignment. And that's the beginning of the change of your life, because then you say in that moment, let me bring myself back in. That's the beginning of the repatterning of your mind, your conscious mind. And then over time, you get the rewiring of your subconscious mind. And we can all do that. So we want to exchange the word, like, you mean, I'm what do people use? It's your fault. Or people think, oh, you're telling people they're to blame for their own life. No, I'm saying let's change that wording. We're all vibrationally responsible. We're in charge of our vibration, and we're responsible. So instead of beating ourselves up and saying, oh, we were bad, we ruined our life, we did this terrible thing, we say, well, wait, now I'm vibrationally responsible. That situation is the way it is because it's mirroring my energy. Now, isn't that lovely? And now I'm empowered. Now I can change the energy within me. And this movie changes. I often use that terminology. Our mind is the projector. Our life is the movie. How empowering is that? Versus the world is out there. And if I want anything to change, I got to go out there and change it. And good luck with that.
Good luck with that. Yeah. Good luck,
Changing
because people love being told what to do.
Situations, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, everyone loves having other people tell them how they should be living. I mean, that goes down like a treat.
Yeah.
just go out and try that. Go out and try that with the 7,999,000,000, whatever it is. Just you.
Yes.
But all you need to change before I feel good. Like, well, you're going to be. You luckily you got eternity, because it's probably going to take about that long if that's what you're doing this with. But
it's so interesting. Why go out there and try to expend all that energy, which is fruitless, and there's no guarantee, and all the effort that you have to expend, and all the people you got to talk to, and all the things you got to do, when all you got to do is go inside yourself and start talking a new story. Start reconnecting with who you are, the beautiful being you are, and feel your own self-love and your own self-worth, and really get connected with that, and why it's true, and why you came here, and how this life is set up, and how the universe supports you. And isn't that so much easier? Fully in charge of all that. You can empower yourself. You can get that story going, you can get your connection going, and then the world starts to show it to you. And you didn't lift a finger, right? You took action because when the stuff came, that's what action is for, going back to our original part of our conversation. Now the stuff starts to come to you and you act on it, right? You don't quote to make it happen. Very, very different.
God, Brian, this is I've what a great place to finish. It's come full circle, and I think this is my favorite of our conversation so far. We will. I'd love to chat to you again. So we'll email each other and come up with another topic for people. But I just, again, I'm so appreciative of your work, your directness, your ability to take what is can be very confusing and I guess metaphysical for people into very simple, practical steps. I will put everything again in the show notes to find you. Before you go, is there anything you want to finish with? Anything you want to guide people toward? It'd be great if you can send the links to some of the things you mentioned. I think you mentioned a couple of YouTubes that you've done recently.
Well, I
So I'll put
know
those.
Breaking Bad Habits. That was a recent video,
Yeah.
and that gives the tools. That gives really tools because, like I said, everybody's in different places with their beliefs, and some people can do what I related that story and wholesale shock the energy, put themselves into a new story, and be there so with so much conviction that it will manifest because they literally changed the energy that quick. But they did change the energy inside and they were free enough to do that. For other people, there's that deconstruction process to really get in touch with their worthiness and that kind of thing. So that video, Breaking Bad Habits, is great because it gives you the tools to see where you are in your day with your energy and how much high vibration, low vibration you get going on, and what's going on, that what's pulling you down into a low vibration. In negative emotion will tell you that. And then you set up the triggers list. The triggers list is then all these things that trigger me into reacting in that negative feeling way. And then from that, then you say, well, okay, well, I'm not going to react. I don't want to react like that anymore. I'm going to respond in this way. When that happens, I'm going to start responding in this way. So you build that script, that deconstruct, reconstruct script from the creative process foundation, and then you relate that, and you can look at the intensity once a week. I recommend you look at the intensity, the duration, and the frequency of those reactions, so you can really track it and you can see, hey, I'm making progress. Because if it's a month later and you say, well, it doesn't feel like anything's changing, you should never get that. It should never happen to you if you use these tools, because on a daily basis you'll know if you're increasing more positive energy, and on a weekly basis you won't know if you're deactivating faulty beliefs. There's no guesswork in this. This is what I really like about it. It's beautiful. You can either go wholesale if you got enough, your beliefs are such that you can change the story quickly and get a change in manifestation. But if it's not like that and you got to go through the change in the energy, then you can use that tool, right, along with the other tools in that video. So that's a powerful video. And then it's the 7 stages of manifestation change kind of go along with that, give you a roadmap to bring yourself back into alignment. But those will be 2 great ones. But some of the recent ones have great messages in them to really help with alignment. But certainly going forward, Paul, it would be great to carry this on. And I had some other stories that I could relate, and I think maybe sprinkling some of those stories in our calls give a nice touch, so that people can see everything we're talking about, how it actually turns, how life turns into that, how life changes from being in a state of some kind of ailment, or being in a state of some kind of vocational situation, and now it's turned into something that is really what you're enjoying. And what happened that turned it into that, right?
I will speak to you soon. Thank you again for your time today. We will do it again very soon. And
Wonderful.
thank you.